Hey, welcome NHL hockey fans. It's that time again, time for another edition of Talkin' Hockey. I'm your host, Charles E. Smith Jr. This is an Inside Sports production. And here we are. It's 2018. This is Thursday, April 19th, just so that you can put into perspective everything we say today. And just in case you think we missed something, we may not have because you're listening to the broadcast a little bit later on. So Thursday, April 19th, what we have is two teams eliminated. It's the end of hockey in Southern California, the LA Kings and the San Jose Sharks. I'm sorry, LA Kings and Anaheim Ducks both went down 4-0 in their opening round series. And let me go ahead and bring in the tearful gentleman in the background. He's somewhere in a bunker in Eastern Canada. I can't say where. He's in some type of witness protection. But anyways, the fastest glove hand in the North. None other than Lightning Lonnie Schwartz. Lonnie, what's going on up there, man?
Did I get the part of crying fans? Did I land the role?
You did, yes. Okay. Yes, good, conspiracy good. Theories. Gary Bettman wanted the Vegas Golden Knights to beat the Kings, and I guess he wanted the Sharks to beat the Ducks. So that's why the Sharks were able to outscore the Ducks 16-4. Over the course of their playoff series because Gary Bettman wanted that. And the reason why the Golden Knights were able to outscore the Kings 7-3 is because Gary Bettman also wanted that. Yes. We got that? Conspiracy.
I've got that one.
Yes.
Although I'm not convinced Jonathan Quick got the memo on that conspiracy theory because there is no goaltender in memory in the history of the National Hockey League that can go 0-4 with a goals against average of, 1.65 and a save percentage of .947.
Right.
Hold on a minute. So if I were to tell you without saying anybody win, loss, or anything, say I got a goalie here. All right, I got a goalie. He's doing all right here. He's got a goals against average 1.65, .947. This is a real easy sell. You're going to be like, sold. And you're like, no, he's the loser. Wait. Pardon?
Yep. And if the fix was in, he's kind of like Bucky Weaver in 8 Men Out, with the Chicago Black Sox scandal, the only player who actually wasn't in on it. So, Hey, we're just having fun here, folks. There's no scandal. The Knights played a terrific series. In fact, what I think one of the testaments to the Knights is something they said about the Sharks head honcho, Doug Wilson, their president or GM. He was saying that early in the season, the Sharks were having difficulties, and what he wanted to do was he told his team to pattern their game after the way the Golden Knights played. That's what he said, just through observations. And you look at that, the way the Sharks were with the Ducks is the same way that the Golden Knights were with the Kings, and that is just the relentless forecheck. I mean, they beat the Kings. Honestly, I watched all the games. The Kings got beaten in all 3 zones. They did. When the Kings were in their own zone, there was the relentless forecheck. There was chasing down pucks in the neutral zone. And then when the Knights were killing penalties, it was constant pressure. So the motion is there. There's no glide in their game. And it's tough to watch your team lose, especially giving up only 7 goals over the course of 4 games. But hey, the Knights did it. They took it to them.
Yeah, they did. And the offense on the Kings just went Jeff Carter, no points. Tyler Toffoli, no points. Those are 2 guys you expect some degree of production from. Drew Doughty, no points, even with the 1-game suspension.
Right.
So offense was nowhere to be seen. Jonathan Quick, like we've already established, conspiracy or not, and like you said, we're just having fun with it.
Exactly. Yes.
We're having fun with it. This is like a Julia Roberts movie or a Mel Gibson movie, one or the other. It's just shits and giggles. I can say that word, right? That's okay?
You can. Yes.
Okay.
The internet is the Wild West.
All right. I
try to keep it classy.
Okay. I won't go gunnery. Sergeant Hartman, by the way, who passed away last week, the god of coarse language, who would make any NHL chirp seem tame by comparison. Rest his soul. Anyhow, or as the Marines would say, sorry, semper fi. But getting back to the Kings, like we were talking about this, we thought, man, the offense was good this year. Kopitar went silent. Brown went silent. These are guys who've been there before, but Vegas just capitalizing on the small mistakes, which is the cliche of hockey. How do you win games? By capitalizing on the other team's mistakes. And they were brief but they still managed to get
right.
even so. And by the way, let's not forget, we mentioned Jonathan Quick's statistics. Marc-Andre Fleury on the other end of the ice, 2 shutouts, and a save percentage of 977 and a goals against of 0.65. He has a goals against average of under 1. Like, that was the battle of battles for goaltending. I mean, I'm staying up late going, they're not going to be scoring. And if they are, it's not going to be easy, or it's going to be some little mistake. And that's all it ended up being. And it was frustrating because, I mean, in the last game, Anjay, he comes right up the gut, red zone, and Fleury just stands his ground and gets enough piece of the puck just to swat it to the corner. Like, I was looking at that going, Anjay's got this. He's got all this. He's still got the puck. And then Fleury makes the save. I'm like, all right, game's over right there. Over. And there was the sweep. We both picked the Kings, did we not? And
we did, yes.
Eating a small piece of humble pie. It's okay. Yep. It's custard. Yep. It's tasty. It's not chocolate.
So let's get, you know what? That's enough for the Kings. Let's get over to the Ducks. Briefly here, Ducks outscored 16-4 in their series. And one of the things when we talked about the analysis, and here's how just these little things just come into play. The Ducks entered the season. We look at their back line, the blue liners there. I mean, Hampus Lindholm, Sammy Vatanen, Cam Fowler. Collectively, there was possibly not a better group of puck-moving defensemen in the league. What happens? Sammy Vatanen gets traded to New Jersey because they need offense, so they pick up Adam Henrique. That's fine, but they lose that off the back line. Then late in the season, Cam Fowler gets injured. So now they're down to the only pure puck mover on the blue line is Hampus Lindholm. And I think the Sharks took full advantage of that. They took it to him, outscored him 16-4 over the course of the series. Never let them generate any offense. And remember, when you can't get a smooth breakout, you don't get any speed going through the neutral zone. Therefore, you can't put the other team back on their heels. And that's really what happened here with the Ducks.
And the other thing that San Jose, I should add, they did very well was just make some good, smart passes and drove the net real hard, balanced the scoring pretty well. Right. Pavelski, he's leading the team in scoring in the playoffs right now. But and you see the attack. I mean, you reminded me, how could I have even forgotten the beard? I almost feel shame. I quasi-forgot about Sasquatch in Brent Burns. And he's unloading shots from the point, helping to generate the offense. And his, you hardly want to say back-checking when it comes to a defenseman, but he's just so aggressive offensively. It's a marvel to watch how he gets back to his own zone, picks up his own rebound. Like, he'll bounce it out. It'll go offside. He'll collect it and then re-enter the zone. And you're watching that going, how, did that just happen? The guy is amazing on the back end. So, I mean, this is a team that's really got everything balanced out well. And of course, Martin Jones can't make light of what he did. I mean, there's been some good opportunities for the Anaheim Ducks to score, or had been, I should say. And he stood well in his crease. He's a playoff goaltender. He's done really well the last couple seasons in the crease with San Jose. I really love his philosophy as a goalie coach, by the way, just something that he brought up a couple seasons ago when they made it to the Cup final. One of the things that resonated is how he said, technique be damned. My job is to stop the puck. So mentally speaking, he kind of allowed himself some forgiveness. If he doesn't look technically sound every save, he doesn't care. I mean, look at past goaltenders. Tim Thomas, maybe the most recent of examples, and then Dominic Hasek prior to that. I'd say Martin Jones isn't quite there, but the job is to stop the puck.
Right.
So give himself that kind of leeway. It was really remarkable to hear, and a good mentality. So if you're a young netminder out there, I'm going to put my Don Cherry collar on, right? Young tenders out there, I tell you, give yourself some forgiveness if you don't use perfect technique every time. I tell you, job's to stop the puck. It's to stop the puck, I tell you. At least I got
that was beautiful, man. That was beautiful. I gotta admit.
Out of you.
Okay, let's get over to the other division here. And okay, this is the one that's kind of heartbreaking, though. Even though, okay, Nashville is favored, and we both thought it might be a sweep. But when I watch those games, Colorado, and for Colorado fans out there, I know it's painful, but trust me, the team is not that far away. When I watch this series, it's Nashville is jumping on every little mistake that Colorado makes. And Colorado makes a few little mistakes. They do. And not only that, but as we also talked about in the opening when we previewed everything, it was about the goaltending. You know, Jonathan Bernier, like I said, he can't hold up to the pressure. I watched him when he developed or didn't develop out here for the Kings. So, and you talk about technically sound. That was the thing about Bernier. A lot of people thought that he would beat out Quick for the starting job because his technique was so good. And, you know, I was one of the few, I'll go ahead and say it, toot my own horn. I said at the time, back in 2010, 2011, I said, he will never put Jonathan Quick on the bench. And I don't care how good his technique is.
I will vouch for you on that because I've known you for like that long. Believe it or not, I've known you that long. I was looking at some old tax documents. That's why I know.
Yeah.
It's tax season. Not a shameless plug for a tax company, by the way, that I have no affiliation with, so I'm not going to mention them.
But Hammond is going to start Game 5, by the way.
Pardon me?
Nashville is up 3-1, and actually Hammond is going to get the starting goal in Game 5 for Colorado.
Yeah, and Colorado, as you mentioned, all the credit to them. A lot of people didn't pick them to even sniff at the playoffs. So here they are, and they're taking on President's Trophy winners in Nashville. And by the way, Pekka Rinne winning his first road game in what 6 games or something ridiculous like that, because he got wiped in Pittsburgh in the Stanley Cup final last year. Mm-hmm. And of course he carried that over in 1 game into Colorado. But let's also not forget that Philip Forsberg should have been, and I know we're going to be talking Eastern Conference on a separate cast here, but I mean, this is a guy who would have looked spectacular in helping the Washington Capitals. But instead he's just festering as the all-time points leader in the playoffs for the Nashville Predators. Now think of that. This is one young kid. He's a stud. And he's got two highlight reel goals already in the first round that in my estimation could stand up to being still as the goal of the playoffs. That goal where he just totally embarrassed Girard and then drove the net, lifted the stick through it was just embarrassing. But you felt it. And then you're like, he's going to score on this play. And he scored. And you're just like, man, this guy, if they make it to the finals again and win, this guy has got Conn Smythe written on. And I hate prognosticating like that. You know that about me. But he can take over a game. That's how good Philip Forsberg has been already in the first round. So just watching how he's playing and taking over when he needs to. It's not just some fluff play when you're up 7-1. No, we need this goal. He's like, okay, Skip, and just goes out and does it. It's remarkable to watch.
Well, let me ask you something, though. When we talk about Pekka Rinne, now, when we look at the whole goals scored in the series, granted, 4 games played, but the total goals, the Preds have only outscored the Avalanche 16-13. The Preds giving up 13 goals over the course of those 4 games. I mean, any cause for alarm possibly? I'm thinking maybe Pekka needs to tighten things up a little bit here.
There's also got to be an account, though, for the types of goals being scored. And again, when we talk about the Eastern Conference, this is going to play in heavily with the ills of Brian Elliott. But we'll talk about that on the Eastern Conference side. But Pekka Rinne kind of fell victim to some of that too. Some real quick lateral plays in the red zone, the slot right above the crease. That's what I refer to as the red zone. That's real hard to move laterally. Sometimes a puck's going to squeeze through an armpit. You don't want to. You want that closure technique-wise, but when you're making that quick dive across to make the save, you're kind of hedging your bets. And Pekka Rinne's done that because of some of the plays that Colorado has generated in that red zone. I've watched these goals. Even when he got pulled, you're seeing some opportunities where it's more of a mercy pull. It's just like, you know what? Let's get the rest. And UC Soros did step in and did admirably. He made some tough saves. So that also gives confidence in the team to say, hey, look, I know Pekka might struggle, but if we put Soros in, we're going to be okay. At least he's going to sustain us. So there was kind of a yin and a yang to that game where Pekka got pulled. And then, of course, he did bounce back, kept him in the game. He made some real quality saves. So now they're up 3-1 after that big win in Colorado. And now they're heading back home to arguably the greatest arena in playoff hockey, Bridgestone Arena in Nashville. I got to give props to the Nashville fans, by the way. I know a lot of the bloggers, a lot of the good bloggers from there. They've gone on to the mainstream media as well, covering the team since day one. So good on those guys and how that team has just done spectacularly well as a franchise. And look at where they are now.
Yep. Absolutely.
Sorry, I got on a tangent there as a franchise because I did, but look at how well they're playing and where they are and the expectation we have of this team to make it to the Stanley Cup final. And even though, like you said, they're just finding that other gear at the right time, even though the scoring is close, it's just at the right time. Whether you win or lose, whether you win, 4-3 or 4-0, it's still a W. You're still moving on to the next round.
There you go. So, and that's one of those things which I've seen with a few Stanley Cup playoff championship teams over the years is there may be that struggle in round one, but they weather that storm, and that team that lost, they wound up creating a monster. And from that point on, they'll start to steamroll. Not necessarily saying that will happen with Nashville, but if they were ever vulnerable, it was in this first round, and it looks like Colorado just, they're not going to get it done. And head coach Jared Bednar, he was talking about it. He said, it's just a few little things that keep happening with Colorado. So as I said, Colorado, you and your fans, look, go ahead, look at this and look toward the future. And remember, this is a young team. So Colorado is poised to actually be in the hunt for the next 3 to 5 years. I always put it in those terms, 3 to 5 years. Probably do need to shore up the goaltending, a couple other things. But as far as looking at the coach being in the year he's in here, the team and everything, hey, it's going to look good going forward. And hockey has been restored in the Rocky Mountain State. Let's go ahead and say that. NHL hockey restored. And
let's not omit the fact that Nathan MacKinnon has recorded 5 points. So you've got and you've been waiting for him to make that big impact as a player, the franchise player, not to mention Gabriel Landeskog registering 6 points. So it's not like the young guns that you're looking at for your future have been quiet. The guys that you're expecting to make that step up are doing it. So the foundation is performing. Like you just said, I'm going to piggyback on that and saying good look for the franchise moving ahead, where we thought it was like a tire fire where we were just pouring gasoline on and saying, well, it might burn out.
Yeah, so that's true. And we won't even get into how big it just seems like. I don't want to throw him under the bus, but Matt Duchene, what kind of a malignancy was he in the locker room? I guess we may never know. Those things come out as the years go on. But let's go ahead and move on to the last series here going on in the West. Minnesota Wild and the Winnipeg Jets. Winnipeg up 3-1 right now. Josh Morrissey recently gets that 1-game suspension for a vicious cross-check to the jaw of Eric Stahl. Now, this was during when Minnesota already had a 5-on-4. They had the power play. Had they gotten this call, it would have been a 5-on-3. They wound up losing this game in overtime. So you got to wonder. And the refs, I understand refs they miss calls. They're human like all the rest of us. But I'm sorry, with 2 referees and a cross-check to the jaw and nobody seeing it, to me, I got to call out the refs on this one. Not saying conspiracy, but what I'm saying is it was gutless. That's what happened. The refs saw it. They were afraid to make that call at that time. That's why they didn't do it. I know that's what happened.
And we get caught up in the whole playoff hockey lingo. And that bugs me because the adage of how officials put their whistles away and we don't want to affect the outcome of the game. I always come back to this because by not making the appropriate call, you are affecting the outcome of the game. So you can't sit there and say by putting your whistles away, you're doing anyone any favors. That line doesn't work well with me. You're not treading water there. You're sinking like a stone. So I hate that adage and that tired old trope of we don't want to affect the outcome of the game. Make the call, right? We'll understand that suspensions might be a little bit lighter. Morrissey is getting 1 game for it. And as we talked about before we went on air here,
right.
We're not talking conspiracy theories here. This should have maybe gotten more than 1 game because if Drew Doughty's was 1 game, that's what sets the bar. And Morrissey's actions, we both argued, were to the point that it probably could have been a 3-game suspension potentially. So
exactly.
And it even led to a play where Winnipeg ultimately took the game-winning goal, right? Big shout out for Hellebuck, who did get nominated for a Vezina, not like they're giving 3 out, but here Pekka, here Connor, did you guys get and oh, don't forget about Bobrovsky. When we talk about the Eastern Conference, he matters too. Don't forget about him. But sorry, I had everybody gets one. It's like being on Oprah. You get a Vezina. You get a Vezina. But you have to pay for it and the taxes.
I think it's, I don't know what's more disturbing here. Your tangent about the Vezina or the fact that you just admitted to everyone that you regularly watch Oprah.
I do not regularly watch.
You watch The View? I mean,
okay, interview over.
Okay. All right. Okay, everybody. So there we go. That's the Western Conference breakdown.
Hellebuck helped make that game. I didn't want that to go unnoticed. A really good Connor Hellebuck, Vezina Trophy candidate, well earned, well deserved, and nicking on the heels of your boy in LA, Jonathan Quick, as the dominant American-born goaltender in the National Hockey League. An outstanding playoff debut for Connor Hellebuck.
Yep, he seems to be the heir apparent, and we look at the goal scoring in the series, and a lot closer than I think we had anticipated. Goals 11-9 in favor of Winnipeg. Minnesota not going down without a fight. What I did like was the bounce back in Game 3 by Minnesota when it looked like Winnipeg was going to steamroll, and then Minnesota goes out and curb stomps them 6-2 in Game 3, just to let them know it's like, you know what, you may have a lot of talent, but we're not just going to lay down for you. So we'll
by
see.
the way, speaking of talent, we can't forget to mention this. Their leading goal scorer in the playoffs, though, Zach Parise.
Yeah.
That guy can sneeze and he'll twist a joint in his neck and he's done for the year. And this is a talented hockey player that they spent oodles of money on and a long-term deal along with Ryan Suter. And don't forget, Suter, he broke his femur? So these are 2 major components down for the Minnesota Wild. So it's real hard to see that they aren't able to compete with 2 of their best players.
And Zach Parise with a fractured sternum. I mean, that just sounds so incredibly painful.
Yeah. That hurts to breathe, and you've got to play a full-out 15-minute hockey game, 20-minute hockey game. Good luck with that. He's not being a wuss because he said, oh, my sternum.
Okay. All right, so there we go. Like we said, Kings and Ducks swept 4-0, both of them, and still waiting on the other division here, Nashville and Colorado, Minnesota and Winnipeg. We'll see if there's any, maybe Minnesota gets energized by this because Josh Morrissey is serving the suspension, so we'll see what happens there. But Lonnie, before we get on out of here, and hey, everybody, if you're wanting the Eastern Conference, just look for that in the feed on Podbean. Remember, you can download the Podbean app and take us wherever you want. Just find Inside Sports on there, Talking Hockey, and you can just listen at work or in your car or wherever you may be. But before we check on out of here, Mr. Schwartz, you have any wisdom for the hockey-loving public out there?
Well, I always try and impart this. And while we have seen some very lopsided series already in the West, we've seen sweeps. I think we've only really been off with one series, and that was Vegas and LA. Otherwise, pretty sure we agreed that San Jose was going to take theirs and that there's not going to be an upset between Colorado and Nashville. And either way, Winnipeg is looking pretty damned impressive. They're going to take Minnesota too. So I want to say, in the mutually congratulatory society of talking hockey, we did all right on the Western Conference so far. And I got to say, though, that moving ahead, don't get too excited when it's a 2-0 gap, right? It drives me bananas. It's like, oh, series is over. Well, no, it's a 7-game series. You can start saying the fat lady's warming the chops up at the local opera if it's 3-0. You can say the brooms at the dollar store are in short supply. But when it's 2-0, just calm down. It's okay. Just stay level. It's at the 3-0 deficit that you start saying, yes, hyperventilation might be something acceptable. That's what I like to impart on people, to not get too excited. And we're going to be moving ahead to the Eastern Conference on Talking Hockey. You just dropped that on the good listeners. So thank you for having me on Talking Hockey on Inside Sports. I'm going to shamelessly plug you right now because I can see it. You can find Charles at the Inside Sports on Twitter.
There we go. And you can find Lonnie at the Schwartz 5454 on Twitter. The Schwartz, that's SCHWARTZ 5454.
Nice plug.
There we go. Okay, everybody, thank you for watching. And throughout the playoffs, we'll be here every single week. The show is Talking Hockey. This is an Inside Sports production. So for Mr. Lonnie Schwartz, this is Charles E. Smith Jr., and we will see you all next time.